It is Tuesday, November 18th, and you're right on time for the start of a new edition of CNN Student News. First up, recession. No country wants to use that word to describe the state of its economy. But Japan, one of the world's biggest economic powers, is in one. The nation's government made the announcement yesterday. A recession, a significant decline in economic activity. And the Japanese economy, like many others, has been battered by the global financial crisis. Kyung La examines some of the factors behind Japan's announcement and what it could mean for the country.
You've heard the phrase, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck. Well, this is the report that officially says Japan's economy, the world's second largest economy, has now slipped into recession for the first time since 2001. Now, why? There are a number of factors, but the biggest factor, if you talk to any economist here, is that the U.S. consumer, that all-important consumer, Japan's #1 customer, just is not buying. They cannot get the loan for that big Japanese automobile. They also don't feel like spending on those smaller ticket items like the Wii. So what that amounts to is that Japan's brick and mortar companies, the companies that you know, Sony, Toyota, Honda, Nissan, those companies are struggling in the global slowdown. And so what that means is that those companies make less money, and then that translates into job losses and a weakening of Japan's real economy. So this is something that puts an official ticker on what many people had already believed was been happening, is that Japan's economy is in a recession.
So, times are tight here in the U.S. too, and that is why some companies are making changes to our food. Not the price, but the packaging. Chris Lawrence takes us down the supermarket aisle where some items are shrinking before our eyes.
There's a surprise underneath the jar of Skippy. It just developed a dimple. A curve in the jar that cuts out 10% of the peanut butter. Less product, same price.
I think they're kind of trying to take advantage of people not paying attention.
Skippy? Skimpy? Well, they're not alone. In the last year, a lot of your favorite products have gone on some heavy-duty diets. Dial soap is still $2.99, but it's 5 ounces lighter. There's less ice cream in the cartons, and the Cheerios box is smaller.
And they don't advertise it at all, so I didn't even notice.
From the front, these boxes look the same as always. Kellogg's just making them less deep.
They always want to tell you if it's the new bigger size or if it's the new better taste, but they obviously aren't going to tell you we're skimping on you a little bit.
We contacted these companies to find out why. Kellogg pointed to a dramatic rise in the cost of grains. Dryer says our ingredient costs have risen by 30 to 60%. Skippy's parent company Unilever says manufacturing and transportation costs have also increased significantly. So why not just raise prices, even 10-20 cents?
Consumers tend to have these psychological price thresholds in their head. So they say, I don't want to pay more than $1 for a bar of chocolate.
Pricing consultant Drew Conrad says when products break that threshold, sales suffer. So the old 8-ounce Hershey bar slims down as more companies keep the price the same and cut the quantity.
When consumers figure all this out, are they just going to stop buying certain brands?
Most people don't. They're very brand loyal. You change your breakfast cereal. I mean, people get into certain habits. They trust certain brands.
Experts say shoppers should be checking the small labels that tell you exactly what you're paying per ounce, because ultimately it is up to the consumer to be vigilant. Chris Lawrence, CNN, San Francisco.
Is this legit? The Santa Ana winds are dry because they originate in the desert. This is true. The Santa Ana winds originate in the Great Basin, and they typically heat and speed up as they blow downslope across Southern California.
And those winds have been fueling the wildfires that are scorching across parts of Southern California. But the winds let up a little yesterday, allowing some residents to return to their homes. The danger, though, far from over. Multiple fires are still burning through the region. Officials say it could take several more days to get these flames under control. The largest blaze has already destroyed more than 200 buildings. It's threatening thousands more. Moving to Chicago now, where President-elect Barack Obama and Senator John McCain met this week for the first time since they faced off as presidential candidates. The former rivals discussed issues like the economy, energy, national security. in what they described as a productive conversation. They said they hope to work together to confront the challenges facing the country. And the Space Shuttle Endeavour is helping out with some home improvements on the International Space Station. The shuttle and its 7-person crew arrived at the orbiting outpost on Monday and brought along a whole mess of stuff to help upgrade the ISS. New sleeping compartments, exercise equipment, a new fridge and toilet. But the strangest item, get this, it might be a new recycling system that, believe it or not, is designed to turn urine and sweat into drinking water. Sounds disgusting. Even more gross, NASA engineers ran a taste test on some of these samples. They swear it's fine. I'm not going to be the first in line to try it. How about you? Besides it sounding nasty, what are your thoughts on this urine into water idea? Head to our blog today and tell us what you think.
Time for some fast facts. The Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC, got its independence in 1960. Civil war erupted in the African nation in the late 1990s, and the violence drew in several neighboring countries. In 2000, the United Nations started sending troops to help end the fighting. The DRC Civil War ended in 2003, but more than 1 million people had been displaced by the fighting.
That civil war may be over, but violence is raging through the African nation yet again as government forces clash with rebels. Now, this has been going on for several weeks now. The UN had brokered a ceasefire between the groups. That appears to have been broken by renewed fighting. Jim Clancy looks at what could be the biggest cause of the conflict.
Cause and effect. This is Eastern Congo, where a rebel conflict and the humanitarian crisis that comes with it have dragged on for a decade. An estimated 50,000 people have been displaced since the violence flared up last month. That brings the total to about 250,000 displaced since August, according to the UN. Conditions in the camps are desperate.
There is a sentiment of panic here. The security is the first priority. The second priority is food.
And there's not enough of either to go around. UN peacekeepers who struggle to protect the displaced are feeling the strain.
We have approximately one soldier for every 10,000 citizens in the Kivus. We have 10,000 soldiers roughly in the Kivus, 10 million people. So that shows you the scale of the challenge we face.
And the blue helmets are sometimes targets themselves. Rebels recently fired rockets at a UN convoy in North Kivu. Even some of the displaced are taking out their frustration on UN troops. The biggest obstacle to peace may be the DRC's abundance of mineral resources, including gold, tin ore, and coltan, a key component in cell phones and laptop computers. The international watchdog group Global Witness says all sides in this conflict are involved in illegal mining or related activities, and they all have a financial incentive to keep the war going.
These armed groups wouldn't be able to trade if there were nobody to buy these minerals.
Western diplomats are trying to pressure leaders to implement existing agreements, such as a January ceasefire that was signed by the DRC and 22 rebel groups. But until the international community confronts the plunder of mineral wealth, it is hard to imagine a lasting peace coming to this region. Jim Clancy, CNN, Atlanta.
Now, before we leave you today, we want you to check out this one guy's hair-raising new record. Eric's locks are a little long. Nothing really record-breaking about that. That is until you start shaving, combing it out, hairspraying, blow-drying, and oh yeah, don't forget to smash it between a couple giant boards. That is what it takes when you are aiming to have the world's most massive mohawk. At 27 inches, Eric's hair stands head and shoulders above the rest. And he did it all for charity, using his spiky hairstyle to really make a point. Well, that's what we cut and run for the day. I'm Carl Azuz.